Tisas Carry Double Stack. We've got it for review, and I'm not alone. Miss Tia is with us for this review. Coming up, you will see our absolute first shots through the gun. We'll try full magazine plus one. Also going to try out some DuraMags since they're very affordable and available. Make sure they run. Once we've got that, full mag plus one with the included mags. Once we're going to see what the gun eats, the spinner for sights and trigger control, tactical accuracy, and a noisy neighbor. Coming up next on GBGuns.
All right, we are out with the Tisas. You already told them what
DS.
it is. Carry
Yes.
ES.
DS. Double
DS.
stack.
Okay. 10 rounds. Normal ABC zone out there. Iron sights. Ooh. That trigger.
We are using Fiocchi 9AP 115 grain.
And that's a
Grip safety.
grip safety. Once I figured out where to put the bullet, it was really fun to shoot. And for as heavy as it is, I actually enjoyed the way that that felt in my hand. It's going to be an interesting review.
All right, mine 10 rounds. Same Fiocchi. So Tia had noticed that the rear sight is a little left. See what happens if I aim a little right. Tia's correct. We're gonna have to do that the whole video. But the gun is very controllable and pretty flat for being a relatively old school design of 1911 and having nothing over here for your thumb. I just hooked my thumb in that rail since, unlike some other makers, Tisas extended the rail the whole way. Gives you a little spot to sink your thumb in and hold on. We're gonna have to hold right the whole way. That'll be fun.
Yay!
Full magazine plus one using the 2 included magazines and that same Fiocchi 9AP. And that magazine release is still a reach just like any other 1911. I'm gonna hold right. Let's see how this goes. Flinch.
More right.
I know, it's hard to remember to hold right, but the important thing and the purpose of that test was, do these mags run fully stuffed? And yes, they did. One more right quick. I'm not even gonna turn on the target camera for it. Do the DuraMags work in it, since they are a 2011 pattern? 3 rounds. Yes, they do. Now let's see what the gun eats and what's for dinner. It's that time again. What's for dinner time? Thanks to Ammo Squared supporters, patrons, and some shopping, of course. We've got a variety of rounds. As I go past these, you'll notice they all have different overall lengths, different ogive locations, different nose shapes, different case material. This can all play a role in reliability depending on the firearm. We want to see, will it feed from slide lock? Will it chamber another round of the same type? And will it lock open on empty? Today we're going from 65 grain up to 158 grain. If you're curious about trying any of this stuff yourself, check the pinned comment over at gbgunsdepot.com. I will link to it where I can find it.
Circle number 1, we have Norma's 65 grain frangible ammo.
Off camera, we determined that it's hitting about 2 inches left at 70 yards, so we're going to aim at the right edge of the circles. Otherwise, totally off target.
And that's really hard to do. Circle number 2 is Federal's American Eagle 70 grain.
Also a frangible load.
Woo!
Yeah, it's a little hotter than the Norma.
But the recoil is not as aggressive in the hand. Circle number 3, Hornady's Critical Defense. This is an 85 grain 100
grain. Critical defense light. Which does need to be chambered.
Why? It might even help the trigger, actually. Because that trigger pull was getting really hard. So I've come to really appreciate dots and that I can leave both eyes open. Just having to close one eye on a really small bladed sight. I guess it's not, but it looks really small. Circle number 4 is the Spear Gold dot, 115 grain. My wrist felt those for sure.
Yeah, I could feel them standing over here.
Dang. Yeah, my wrist doesn't like those. Winchester Silver Tip. These are also 115 grain. Defensive jacketed hollow point. Circle number 5. Yeah, also very aggressive.
And were you holding right edge of the circle for all those?
I was holding the right edge of the circle.
Circle 6 is the PMC SFX, the return of the old Star. And I'm going to give my try at holding on the right edge of the circle.
Yeah, there's a sweet spot in there with that holding right that once you figure it out, it's repeatable.
Yeah. Circle 7 is the ZQI. This is nickel-plated steel case, brass jacketed. Interesting blend of stuff. I'm not even sure if it's still available. I'll give it a look for you guys. 124 grain. Groups pretty well. Next we have Federal Syntec PCC 130 grain. This stuff is slower burning. It's meant for longer barrels. Sometimes it's a fun experiment in handguns. It feels a little softer. Yeah, that's hard. Hard aiming at that edge of the circle.
I think I've heard Nerf guns with more authoritative sound than those.
Now we have Federal's 138 grain Syntec Defense. Oh, that's got some recoil. Yeah, these sights will get fixed when we get home. This is just something you got to figure out. It's a bummer because you can visibly see that the rear sight is off.
We'll show it.
It was just installed wrong from the factory. Circle 10. This is what happens when you buy a gun. It's not a media gun, maybe. I don't know.
Well, but the good news is they're not loose.
Yeah, it doesn't want to move. Oh, these are so soft. Love that PPU 158 ring. All right, what'll be really fun is trying the spinner when we have to hold right.
Could be my lucky day.
That is our Titan Grid Outdoors 6-inch spinner target. We are back here about 12 yards away or so. See, it's got 10 rounds of that Fiocchi. We use this target to test sights and trigger control because it's a small target at distance. As you hit it, it starts moving. The more you hit it, the faster it moves, the harder it is to time a well-placed shot. It did not want to go over for you. However, you had some good hits there.
Aim right. Like, this is just going to be my new motto. I I don't know, like I consider that pretty successful given my track record. I did try to rush a couple because I had some advice that once you know where you're supposed to aim. However, I'm aiming right, so that kind of probably went out the window there. But I think for me, the weight of this gun had more of an effect on my performance. The classic gun in my hand, like it just commands more presence behind it. Iron sights, classically trained, and it's got a nice trigger. So it was off-putting to me at first, the reach of the trigger, where my grip angles, you know, all come together. It just felt kind of weird. However, as I've gotten a little more comfortable with the gun, it just feels very classic in what I grew up with in my early 20s. So,
and you hit on a great point, because there's big debate between aluminum or steel frame on these double stack 1911s. You didn't shoot the Girsan, which is aluminum, but the bull armories you shot are aluminum, and this is steel, so it's got more nose weight. And I think what you just said is it's staying on target better for you with that extra weight.
It does, and I think where the argument is null and void for both of those areas in a defensive situation is this is heavy, so you're not going to be able to carry this as easily as you would a bull, and that's where the difference lies. Is what is the intent of the gun? This, for me personally, would be a range gun. This is something I'm going to bring out that I shoot good every time, but I'm not going to carry it. And I certainly don't want to run it in a 4-day class because the sheer weight of it is going to weigh on me personally over time. However, I'm able to perform better with it because it's got more stuff that's already ingrained in my brain in this gun.
All right, I've got 8 rounds of that Fiocchi. Tia has not told me where the magic hold spot was. So I'm going to try starting on the right edge. Get over the top.
He's going to wiggle it down.
Well, I was fortunate enough to get lucky on my guess for the hold. And again, normally I adjust these sights. These sights will be adjusted after the review, but we run guns as they come out of the box. The trigger's good. I agree with Tia on the assessment of it. And what I'm finding, and Tia, chime in if you've got feedback on this, is it's not a super light trigger. It's just a very predictable trigger. It's crisp.
For me, it's not the weight of the trigger is perfect. The break of the trigger is perfect. For me, it's the reach. I'm really having to come back a ways to make sure that I'm on that completely. I would imagine that you might be overshooting it if you just threw a finger in there.
Yeah, I can throw a finger. I can put my knuckle on the trigger. Yeah. So this might be a smaller grip circumference.
And that's what I noticed when I did my first 10 shots, was it just is much closer than what I've become accustomed to.
Interesting. I hadn't even paid attention to that or noticed it, but yeah.
That's why there's 2 of us.
Maybe it's a smaller diameter, but anyways, the sights, blacked out rear, white dot front. The white dot is a little subtle. Mm-hmm. I think I might want something a little bit brighter eventually, and of course we're going to need to adjust that rear. But the sight picture was fine for that target, and the trigger was predictable enough that it was easy to hit. Why couldn't I get it over? 4 1/4 inch barrel should give us a little extra velocity, but it is Fiocchi, and that's notoriously weak ammo. So maybe that's what did it. Because we both.
I'm going to disagree with you on the whiteness of the sight. Like, yes, you'd want it a little bit brighter. However, having it dim like that allows you to create a better sight picture.
True. It allows your eye to focus without getting punished. There have been some fiber optics where it's just like...
Well, and it's not a fiber optic sight, front sight, is it? So no. If it was more white, the white would bleed into your field of view on your sights.
True. Smart woman.
Trying.
Right. Now for practical accuracy. So for 5 shots from 7 yards of practical accuracy, we're using the same Fiocchi. We decided we're going to aim at the square so that we have a good aiming spot and we can really demonstrate some accuracy, because possibly aiming at that right edge of the circle, as we were doing earlier, is why the groups weren't so great.
By the way, I'm shooting at the left circle square. Ooh.
What happened there?
Was that the last one?
That was the last one.
I think, yeah, that happened.
5 shots, 7 yards. Fiocchi, an AP 115 grain, aiming at the square, so it will print left. I threw that one. Oh yeah, because it's my 4th shot. I always threw the 4th, and apparently the 5th too.
Are they keyholing?
Now let's take a look. So we get asked a lot about keyhole hits, and sometimes it's because the paper has come a little loose from its backer, but odd. That is not a straight, it's not a straight hole. So those depressions at the top of the hole are what kind of are indicative of keyholing, and of course the not perfectly round holes. A hollow point often cuts a nice clean hole like that. This is FMJ, but in looking at the back of the cardboard, we don't see oblong holes. So I think this is just a case of the paper maybe having floated a little bit.
So when I first picked this up today, I was like, oh, it's such a heavy gun. Like my wrist is gonna kill me, but it's very well balanced or weighted in the hand, and I actually enjoy the comfort of a heavy metal gun that's not too heavy, obviously, for me to be able to handle or control. And I appreciate metal accessories. Just, I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but to me, this is very handsome. The mag itself. It's got the grip safety. A lot of people like those. I personally like them. It's also got, you know, the regular safety on the gun as you saw on the tabletop. It fits really well in my hand. Really well in my hand. I'm able to build a really good grip on this gun and maintain it the whole time, no matter what range of ammo I was shooting. And I appreciate that. As I mentioned during the swinger test with Graham, my first impression of the front sight was that it was a blade, and it's not. It's got a really faint white dot in the front that's normal. Size just a little lighter in color, and I came to appreciate that as this review went on, because I was able to make my sight picture was just easier to get. I didn't have anything blowing up, or nothing was too blacked out. What else do I like about this? I just like it. Like, I just like it. And it's not necessarily got a double undercut under here, but the reliefs that it does have really benefited me in being able to secure my grip well, without having the trigger dig into my finger like some of the really old school 1911s could. The only thing I had to mentally compensate for was that trigger reach, because it's really close to your hand, a lot closer than what I've come to know with 9mm. It's usually out here somewhere. Sometimes I have to reach, but this one I was compensating to not reach too far, so I'm impressed.
This is the least expensive of the double stack 1911s that we've tested on the channel, and it's one of the better handling. The 5 shots that look like they might not have hit straight, I'm not going to say decisively. I think that was probably a paper fluctuating. We've got a strong breeze going on here. Might have blown it out or been moving. That's usually what causes that. Plus, we didn't see it with any of the 10 loads in What's for Dinner. And with the crazy range of bullet weight and length there, that's where we would have seen keyholing, I think. Not with 115 ball. So anyways, onto this thing, or back to it. For a high sevens, low $800 gun, it's annoying that I have to adjust the sights. There are many guns that are much cheaper that you don't have to do that. They come out of the box with the irons dead on. But if you look at it as the cheapest double stack 1911 out there, sure, I'll adjust sights to save $500.
However, we've also had guns of a much more significant price range that had dots that weren't even sitting still in the place that they're supposed to be.
True. So, has this accomplished what it set out to do? Be a double stack 1911? Yes. Is it comfortable and nice to shoot? Yes. Does it feel cheap? No. There's something about it. Maybe it's the texture and the grip that doesn't scream premium to me. But whatever. I mean, that's really not especially with polymer. Polymer is so easy to adjust. You could slap some goon tape on there. You could stipple it yourself. Heck, it's a double stack 1911. You could swap the bottom out and put a higher end grip module on there if you wanted and just keep the bones. The GI length guide rod was something that people question about because that shaves off some weight that could be up here, but that front weight from the steel I think compensates. Same thing with it not being a bull barrel. It's a bushing barrel, so it's missing out on some front weight opportunity, but it doesn't need it because of the frame. And I think part of why we see such a small difference in weight between this and an aluminum frame one is because they shed an ounce or two going with that shorter guide rod and going with a bushing barrel. And because of that, it's easy to clean and easy to take down. This is, if you can do a standard 1911, you can do this with no extra tools. So I actually think the combination is pretty smartly done. I think Tisas has a winner here. Not perfect, but hard to beat. Thanks for watching.